made it about 2/3 through the book, laying on my back in the VW bus when I surrendered my life to Christ. And from that night, this is absolutely true, I've never, ever, ever touched drugs again.
You're listening to the Good for Business podcast, where we feature interviews, tips, and tricks from owners, operators, and innovators throughout Mississippi and around the world. And now, your host, Colin Krieger. Welcome to this week's episode. I am your host, Colin Krieger. Here's one of I'm a big fan of this man here. He's one of the most unreasonable people I know in the area. This is John Almond. We call you director of the Dreamcenter Golden Triangle. Is that correct?
That's fair enough. Yes, sir.
Good deal. Well, tell us a story. We'll get to the Dreamcenter, but tell me a story about little itty-bitty John Almond walking the streets of wherever you're from.
Well, thank you, Colin. And first of all, I do want to say thank you for the opportunity just to share a little of one old man's story here in Mississippi. Colin, I was born actually out in Torrance, California, almost 76 years ago. My daddy is from Shaw, Mississippi, in the Delta.
Okay.
And so that makes me almost the real thing, I hope, as a Southern boy. But my dad died when I was only 13 months old. So I really, really miss not having a father. And my work entails working with children that don't have fathers present. And so I think maybe the absence of a dad has really made an impact on my life. But anyway, I grew up out in Southern California, went through high school out in Southern California. Regrettably, my mother had 2 nervous breakdowns right after my father died. He was only 37 years old when he died, and so it was kind of a challenging season of life, and growing up with multiple stepdads, everyone an alcoholic. My mom died of an alcoholic, and so there were some real challenges in those early years. But God has changed my life way back when, and I don't know if this will go into that story or not, but anyway, that's
that goes into, that's why I called it an origin story, because you become a superhero in the area to people in need and people suffering from abuse. And the only position I can speak to this is that I like to say my mother died with a 35-year AA chip in her pocket, and my stepfather died with 35 years worth of AA chips. And so, like I said, I've seen both sides of the experience. And,
yes.
The old line that, said, what the guy's like, well, why do you drink? Is because, well, my dad was an alcoholic. Or why don't you drink? Well, my dad was an alcoholic. And at some point, you have to make a conscious decision of what you're going to do with your life growing up in that mess or in that challenge.
That's right.
As you said.
That's right.
How do you come out of that challenge in your formative years in like high school? Do you have any jobs or anything? Or?
Oh, yeah. Man, I worked all through school. My first job, I was only 12 years old at a burger stand called Clyde's Corner, mopping floors, and I've worked ever since. I worked from age 12 right up to the minute with not too much many intermissions in between, and held a variety of jobs. A lot of kitchen work when I was young, and through high school, that kind of a thing. Worked for a Bob's Big Boy, the home of the triple-decker hamburger. And
this is California glory days too. Are we talking late 50s, early 60s?
Yeah, you're talking through the 50s, early 60s, and up into the 70s.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir. And I had a wonderful experience actually in the United States Air Force. I joined the service during Vietnam, and was stationed, however, 100% of the time in the United States. That's what took me to Tucson, Arizona, where I lived for 42 years.
Real quick, did you join or were you compelled to join? I guess if you stayed in the United States, you just joined, right?
Yeah, you just joined. This was a different time, a different era. We had just the draft was still prevalent. This was during the Vietnam War, and so all branches were drafting back in those days. So I'd like to say that I, was just so full of patriotism. Now that looking back, I wish I could say that, but it was like, yikes, I better join before I get drafted. And that's just the truth. So anyway, I selected the Air Force and just served one enlistment in the United States Air Force.
Wasn't long. He said 42 years. Was 42 years because of the Air Force, or 42 years you just were in Phoenix?
No, I was actually in Tucson.
And
I lived there for the next 42 years. I was discharged in Tucson, Arizona, and other than a brief trip back to Southern California to find out that Tucson had become my home, and then I moved back.
What were you doing in the Air Force?
I was not what I was trained for at all. I was one of just a handful of fellows that was assigned to a Titan II missile wing, the 390th Missile Maintenance wing at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson. Back in those days, it was kind of interesting in that back in those days, we had 18, this is probably not known by many folks, but we were probably the epicenter of the bullseye of the Soviet established bullseye for nuclear attack there. We had 18 Titan II missile silos around the perimeter of Tucson, Arizona. And I worked at all 18 of those missile silos.
The only reason I'm smiling as soon as you said Tucson, my dad was a big World War II history buff, but a military history buff. And I forgot the phrase exactly, but I think if they bomb, hey, Tucson, you're gone. Like, that's what he said. I mean, the only reason, it was like, the place in the Colorado Mountains, the reserve, and like somewhere outside of Seattle. And he's like, that's where they're going,
Yep.
And so I'm glad you made it through that. So,
well, I'm glad I did too. I'm certainly glad to be here.
How long were you in the Air Force total?
I was only in a little over 3 years. I was discharged medically. A surgery on my shoulder that went south real bad, and so they discharged me. They found me unfit for worldwide duty. So it was almost to the day 3 years of a 4-year enlistment. Yeah.
Okay. What was your first grown-up job after that, or family, anything happened?
Oh, man, I've done so many crazy things. I've been from everything from an underground miner at Seven Well copper mine, which at that time was the world's largest underground copper mine, and I worked underground, 2,015 feet underground. And that's when I realized that I better get some sort of education because, buddy, I was really lost. Well, the really lost portion of my life had changed. I was dramatically changed. I don't know if you really want to know all this stuff, and I'll probably say some things. If my family hears this, they won't believe it. But I ended up on drugs. And
it fits the script when you say a tumultuous military career, surgeries, alcoholic parents, and so it's.
But I wasn't about to become an alcoholic because it was so ugly for so many years. I hated alcohol.
So I'll go with drugs.
So I decided to go with drugs.
The addict's mind of how logical some things
how logical it
like,
seemed at the time. Yeah.
I've had ex-addict friends or current addict people in recovery who have told me, like, well, in my mind, it seemed perfectly logical to only steal this much from these people, and couldn't imagine, like, why are you so offended? I only took this much.
Yes.
That's a purity of logic in your soul of like, well, I'm not doing alcohol. That's crazy.
That's nuts. Yeah, that's right. I don't want to be like my mother and others. My sister suffered through that too. She's been sober for over 50 years, though.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and I'm real proud of Nancy for that. But drugs. But then a fellow that I abused drugs with for many years sent me a book. Some of your listeners, if they're around my vintage, might remember a book that sold millions and millions and millions of copies called The Late Great Planet Earth. And it was a book authored by a fellow named Hal Lindsey. And he just recently passed. He ministered up into his 90s. A former tugboat captain on the Mississippi, ended up going to Dallas Theological Seminary, and was based in Los Angeles with an organization out there, a ministry organization, when he wrote this book. And that book caught up to me. I was in Medford, Oregon, living. I mean, when I tell you that I'm probably the biggest loser on planet Earth, right here, I was scared and lonely, and I was living. I was a married man by now at this time, and I was actually living in a VW bus, genuine bona fide hippie, post-military service. That's what's really
that's
strange
unique,
about my past, is that you almost had to be there. It was a season in America that was very, very, very different with the Vietnam thing going on. And anyway, the drugs and the living in the bus, and I was in Medford, Oregon, when this book caught up to me with a letter from the guy that I did drugs with for many years. And in this letter, he shared with me that he loved me, and that the God we were looking for through all of the various drugs, which included LSD and mescaline, and those were kind of the drugs of choice, along with, of course, marijuana, that we always had these conversations about God and wanting to find God and so on. And he said that he had found Christ, and he loved me as a dear friend, and he wanted me to read this book. I made it about 2/3 through the book, laying on my back in the VW bus, when I surrendered my life to Christ. And from that night, this is absolutely true, I've never, ever, ever touched drugs again. From that night forward, and God changed my life dramatically. I guess you'd say I was radically saved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you're sleeping in the back of a van. You're still married at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Any children or anything with you?
Yeah. I have one wonderful son who's now 50. You know, you're interviewing a pretty old crow here.
Oh, well.
And my son just turned 50 years old, and he came through.
Well, it's a little different
marriage.
story now that a lot of kids who think they want their independence and freedom are living in vans voluntarily now. But that was a time in history when, like, living in a van wasn't like living in a car. Like, it was, part of it was choice, but part of it was lifestyle. Were y'all living it just to be free, or was it just a financial thing?
No, it was just to be free. Yeah, we were just traveling. I'd work, some did in job for a short season of time up in Northern California. We ended up at a place called Happy Camp, California, right on the Klamath River, and it was beautiful, and a hippie mecca kind of a place, and so we did that, and then had left there and just stopped in Medford, Oregon, and I was hanging out in a trailer park, and when that life-changing event took place. Yeah, fantastic, and I mean, God just really, really changed my life at that time. Sadly, though, the gal I was married to, she lost her life through drugs and alcohol. I was married for 21 years, and now I just celebrated my 35th anniversary with my wonderful, precious wife, Brenda.
Oh, that's great.
Here we just had our anniversary here a few days ago.
Well, fast forwarding the story, but like, how did you get out of the van? What's your first grown-up job? Because we say on here every few episodes that most men and women have several careers of varying degrees of success, and so you can be a butcher, a baker, and a candlestick maker. So what do you do once you get out of the van?
Well, I ended up coming back to Tucson, Arizona. San Manuel is probably about, 35, 40 miles from Tucson, and I secured employment with Magma Copper Company. And it was there working underground. I ended up there, I stayed there for 5.5 years. But it was there that I realized, you know what, you better get some kind of training, some kind of education. And so I entered, while I was working, shift work, a week of days, a week of swing, a week of graveyard shift. I did that for 5.5 years. And it allowed me, with every third week missing classes, but I enrolled in a local community college. And from that, I'll just try to fast forward all this, from that to real estate school, all while I'm working. And I received a real estate license. I worked in real estate for several years, became a real estate broker, and had a very large office. I was designated a designated broker of an office, had 48 agents, and got into had management. My first leadership opportunities was in the real estate field, and did that for several years. But I've been a licensed realtor, broker, licensed mobile home dealer in Arizona, and ultimately ended up in the automobile industry that I stayed in for 40 years. I learned the automobile leasing industry. I learned that and ended up opening an independent automobile leasing company called Auto Executives there in Tucson, and we owned that for 18 years and enjoyed an incredible amount of success in that industry for 15 of the 18 years. Then the recession hit of '08, and it, to my surprise, took us out. We served federal credit unions with our leasing program and a purchasing program. Very interesting. Unfortunately, it's not available what we did in Mississippi. Very strong automobile lobby here that prevents auto brokerage, but we provided for credit union members exceptionally good values on any make of vehicle. There wasn't a brand made that we could not access, or that we did not access, so that we could get people anything they wanted. So we brokered those cars or leased them. So we had that built up to about a $14 million annual business. That was our best year. We hovered between 12 and 14 million a year for several years, until the recession hit Arizona really, really hard.
Oh, because it was one of the places going up. I have my accountant's out in Phoenix, and so I've been to some conferences in Tucson, and heck, the city may be as big as where the mine is now. It's grown about 10 miles in one direction.
So. Oh, it has. I
have a friend who's an agent there too, and that's what he tells me. He's like, real estate's tough here because like there's homes where one builder built 3,000 houses. So you tell me your address, and I know, like, oh, your bathroom's on the left side. You don't have a pool. You have a fence. That's
right.
And look, going through real estate there in the 70s and anywhere in the 70s and early 80s was no picnic. I interned for a Ladder and Bloom, which is a big real estate office in New Orleans, when I was in high school for one semester. And they had a pizza party when the interest rate fell below 10%. I remember just scarred into my mind in the early 90s where it was an all-night New Orleans party. Like, it was inconceivable of how big of a deal that was. And now, of course, people are having a hard time dealing with 6.5%.
I know. I was talking with somebody in the last week about that, how 6.5%. I mean, we would have been dancing on our desktops to have that good of an interest rate.
I remember hearing then that getting below 9% they thought that it would cause a worldwide homelessness problem. And then I had an economics professor 4 years later told me if it ever gets below 5%, that the world will collapse because it's you can borrow the money and buy stock. And then like it got below 3% while I was a realtor, and I'm like, this is just amazing. Like my house is at 2.5%. Like I'm a realtor and I'm never moving.
Yeah. It was very, very difficult. And that's why I ended up in the auto industry. I was actually recruited by a broker that I used to manage his office. Before I became a broker myself, I managed a large real estate office, a Century 21 franchise, and this fella sold his practice, his business, his real estate practice, and ended up working for a large dealer, a dealer that known as a mega dealer. He had 17 dealerships in Arizona and Southern California. And he recruited me into the automobile industry because we were trying to sell homes. If I'm dying, I'm lying. We hit 18% mortgage rates back in those days.
Yeah.
And so I know what you're talking about. To hit 10, it's time for a party. Yeah, it was very, very difficult. But I fell in love with the industry, not some of the dealership practices by any stretch, but the industry itself. I just fell in love with it. And so I worked in that industry for 40 years. Before we had to close Auto Executives, and that brought me to Columbus, and God again made a radical change in my life that brought me into the ministry.
So if you we're talking 2008, 9, 10, was it
Correct.
As far as lessons learned, was that a slow slide down or just a crash or?
It was a period of denial. Our business was, by God's grace, it was so successful that I was in denial for 3 years, exhausting all of the business assets, exhausting our personal savings, which had become fairly substantial, and we exhausted everything because it's a funny industry. Everything is always measured in 30-day segments, 30 days at a time. How'd we do this month? What was our sales volume? What was our profitability? That sort of thing, 30 days at a time. Then you start fresh. And so at the end of every 30 days, I said, this cannot go on. This recession cannot go on another 30 days. And so I was really in denial. And we just limped along, 15 staff of 15 down to my wife and myself. And that was it. And until one day the reality hit that, buddy, you're toast.
Yeah, it's hard. Like in hindsight, I'm going through the 20th anniversary of Katrina here, and how quick we had to make decisions on jobs and life stuff. And in hindsight, you're like, oh, this was, a transition, and you saw it coming. But a lot of times it's that final sit down at the dinner table where you tell your wife, like, even if she was participating or not, you're like, this is over. Like we have to jump. The bank's, it's gone. So,
yeah.
So, if you're so you're there in Arizona. How on earth do you get to Columbus, Mississippi?
Well, that's the funny thing. During the glory days of our business, Auto Executives, we had the ability to do much, for the most part, anything we wanted to for vacation. One year, about 2000, we started vacationing in Columbus, Mississippi, staying with my cousin Sue. Probably many of your listeners know a gal by the name of Sue Hatcher.
Oh, yeah.
And Sue is my first cousin. And her brother, so many folks know, is Tom Moore, known as Tango, or locally everybody knows him by his military.
See, I never had the connection there.
Yeah,
I'm a big Tango fan.
So yeah, and I'm a big fan of his too. He's my hero. He doesn't know that, but he is. He just, man, that guy is just stellar. And he's my first cousin. And you see, after my dad died and my mom went through the traumatic period of her life, which really, she was in trauma till she passed, I'm afraid. But she would send me to be with my father's people. I mentioned that my dad was born in Shaw, Mississippi, and he would send me to be with my grandma and my grandpa in Shaw, and my Aunt Barbara, Sue Hatcher's mom, and Sue and Tango's mom, in Scott, Mississippi. He was raised in between Benoit and Greenville. Is a little
I've seen the sign
little community
for it.
called Scott, and so I had such a wonderful relationship with Mississippi as a boy because it gave me an opportunity for normalcy.
Yeah.
You know, things were nuts at my house. I mean, really nuts with all the booze and the different stepdads that were coming and going and so on. There was a bunch of them. But my mom, so wisely, and maybe because it was good to have me gone for the summers, I don't know. But anyway, my mom would send me to Mississippi every summer. And I got to leave the concrete jungle of Los Angeles and have Huckleberry Finn experience, you know, literally beat my bare feet on the Mississippi mud. Just there on the Mississippi River at Greenville, we'd go there. And anyway, I fell in love with Mississippi. So when we could take a vacation, we would come to Columbus, and this is the absolutely true story. We came 10 years in a row. And so when the business ultimately failed, we thought, well, what are we going to do now? We need to have a place where we can have a reasonable cost of living. It's much more reasonable here than it is out west. And so we were fortunate. We had a nice home in the midst of the recession. We caught buyers. The internet, relatively new. The opportunity for shopping online for a home was pretty new thing. And a couple in Hawaii saw our home online and bought it. Amazing in the midst of that terrible economic time where you couldn't sell nicer homes to save your life at that time locally. And so anyway, we sold the home. That gave us just enough of a grub stake where we could, make the move to Columbus, Mississippi, and that's what we did.
What did you do when you got here? When you landed?
Well, I worked for Carl Hogan Honda with an automotive background. I didn't sell there. I was sort of created my own position, helping them in marketing aspects and writing press releases and things of that nature. And
Carl Hogan
just
Honda,
customer service.
Par Colvin, or
Par Colvin was another hero. What a good guy and a high integrity salesman.
Yeah.
I love Par.
My daughter's still driving the car I bought from him.
Is that right?
Retired, so
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. He's really one of the good guys in the industry here locally, for sure. And so I worked there for 2.5 years, and then you want me to tell you what happened next?
Sure.
Well, my experience in Christ, I was kind of in cruise control there for a season, and not being very impactful, but never ceasing to love the Lord and forever grateful for His faithfulness to me, whether in the course of my Christian experience, whether I was faithful or not. He is always faithful to me, and always made a way for us. I've never gone hungry, not for a minute, and even in the worst of times, God has been faithful. And so, we subscribed to the local paper, the Commercial Dispatch, and my heart was broken then, as it is today, by the headlines of our kids shooting each other in some of our more challenged neighborhoods. These kids that now I know from the experience of the Dreamcenter that I lead, I know firsthand, visiting these homes week after week after week, now over the years, the homes that we're in, these are fatherless homes. Of the children that we serve in the Dreamcenter, over 2,200 children now, only 3%. We monitor this closely every week. Only 3% have a father present. And so I'm reading about these kids that are literally shooting each other in our neighborhoods. And I just began to pray about it and ask God, what can I do? No, actually, the truth is, I began saying, God, you've got to do something. You've got to have somebody, raise up somebody to do something in these neighborhoods. And I felt like God clearly spoke to my heart that, what about you? Why don't you do something? And I thought, well, Lord, I'm old. I'm old. And my complexion isn't right for the neighborhood that I need to go in. And I'm scared. And all of those excuses. And I couldn't get any peace. I could not get a moment's rest. And so I started going into the neighborhoods and just ministering over at the Hunt School before the tornado took the roof off of it all. I began to just go over there and meet with the guys that were playing basketball there and hanging out. And that experience led me to the desire to want a deeper solution. And so I was aware of a fellow that I was in a business club out in Arizona, a guy named Doug Martin, who was the licensee for K-Love Radio out there, and he served on the board of a ministry that I thought might be a good model for us here to pursue. And also in that same general time period, I had become a chaplain, went through chaplain training out in Tucson. I went through a chaplain school and became a chaplain with the International Fellowship of Chaplains. And so anyway, I went out there and I went to Doug's office where he asked me if I'd ever heard of a different ministry than the one that he was involved in, called the Dreamcenter, and I'd never heard of a Dreamcenter. And he's a busy guy. He said, Google it, stood up, shook my hand, thanks for coming, goodbye and good luck. Well, I Googled it, and I began to read about the Dreamcenter founded in Los Angeles way back in 1994 by a 20-year-old guy and his dad, Matthew and Tommy Barnett. And this incredible ministry that is housed in a 15-story hospital, former hospital, that was owned by a group of nuns. And it was for sale. And that's a long story, and I dare not venture into too much detail over that with the time that we have.
Well, they can Google it.
Pardon me?
They can Google it.
Yeah, they can Google it. Yeah, and it's worth Googling.
Yes.
It's incredible. So I grabbed a couple other IFOC chaplains. We flew out there to Los Angeles, and we served out there at the Dreamcenter. We had the incredible opportunity to serve in their men's ministry that houses 260 men on any given day. That's how many were there at that time in their men's program, 24/7 residential program. We got to feed the poor in Chinatown, on Skid Row in Los Angeles. We got to minister on two different occasions on the notorious Skid Row, mental illness, drug abuse, syringes in the street. People are utilizing the streets right in front of you for their restroom. I mean, it's nuts. And we got to minister there in the daytime and at night, which is a whole different dimension.
Yeah.
And it had a profound impact on me. We engaged in what they call foster care intervention. which is very similar to our Beds for Kids program. Ours is unique for perhaps reasons that I can explain here in a moment. That we build, it's unique in that we build all of the beds with donor assistance and volunteer assistance right here. We build all 2,200 plus of those beds that we've placed have been built and placed here in the Golden Triangle. But anyway, we got to experience all those things, and I saw it as a viable model to emulate. And I became a licensee of the Dreamcenter network. There are over 90 of us that are licensees of the Dreamcenter across the Fruited Plain, and we're just one of them. And our ministry is very unique here, though, as a Dreamcenter. We all can make our own decisions as far as how God is leading us to minister, and so. But that's how the Dreamcenter ministry came about, and that was 6.5 years ago. And and so now I'm just more engaged than ever, more excited than ever, because of what God has done and what He's doing. We've barely scratched the surface regarding what God has in store for us to take this mission of community transformation, one life at a time, one neighborhood at a time, but we're doing it. And the Dreamcenter Golden Triangle now not only placing beds, but my goodness, every week now we get to place food in these homes. Yeah, we have a huge compassion initiative we call DC Feeds that is feeding the poor and the working poor every week and supporting other ministries right here in Columbus.
Well, and that timing couldn't be any better. It's funny how things work out, because not only did I hear you over 2 years ago starting to talk about the DC food and how it's a process and you have to get it, and it's showing up now when it's going to be needed even more because of the cuts, and there were some scams with the SNAP stuff. Yes. But I also do remember, I don't know if it was the day that you started it, but I remember meeting a very unreasonable man at which is now the Lowndes County, the Crate Foundation did now the Lowndes County Community Foundation, and you were there and you were pitching it at the table. And one of my favorite features of my friends is them being unreasonable. And I remember thinking, this is a really big idea for a really small market, because I don't know if you're the smallest market for a Dreamcenter, but when you thought of the idea, you sure
certainly
were.
Among the small. We may be the smallest.
I mean, I think you're 100th the size of the LA market, and
yes,
but still an astonishing need.
Yeah. It's deeper than we even imagined, Colin.
It's just because you can only know what you know or what other organizations bring up. Rhonda Sanders and the Community Benefit Committee now at the Sheriff's Department started the food box thing. Yeah. And I remember one of her saying, she's like, I think we'll need 10 boxes. And a week later, she's like, Colin, we need 100 boxes. She goes, I think they're in the 30s or 40s now. Yes. And other cities have done them around us. Yes. It is, and it's not just because, like, Columbus has had a little bit, because we do have excellent mental health care between community counseling and Baptist and other places here. We have had a little bit of an uptick in homeless people the last year, but even last year, the Mount Vernon Church and other churches do food giveaways and have lines out the door. Right. When this was 2 years ago, when the economy was kind of pretty good. Yes. And it's getting worse. And so you don't, with the beds, like you said, the kids that need the beds, you might not find. You've talked about doing some neighborhood initiatives at the last meeting we had, getting in the neighborhood and cooking and having block parties, because that's really the only way when another kid's going to be like, well, he doesn't have a bed either, That's right. It's so magnificent. We couldn't see how this would develop. We couldn't see the opportunities that we'd be given. We couldn't imagine that we would be invited into homes that, I promise you, under any other circumstance, I can't imagine how we could be invited into these homes where we get to see the things that we see. And my friend, I'm going to tell you, the poverty here is unspeakable. It is beyond our wildest imaginations. It isn't that children just don't have beds. They don't have anything. We're in homes where people literally sleep on linoleum floor or on a wooden floor. I'm in homes blocks from where you and I are sitting right now,
right off of Main Street, right down the road, where I've looked through holes in the floor. I'm looking at the dirt through the holes in the floor. In the wintertime, I was in this one particular home that's burned in my head, into my brain. And that is, it's a home where they had just one little, a space heater smaller than this microphone stand that I'm looking at. It was very, very small. That was the only heat they had for the whole home. That home was also missing glass in the windows, only plastic bags hanging in the windows. And two, not one, but two autistic children in that home. And it was a home of working poor. Both had jobs, but that's as good as they could afford on the meager wages that they could earn. And so, and we've seen that over and over and over and over again. I mean, there's people that have been dealt a hand that is, I don't know, it's just too tough to play, you know? And so we're invited into these homes, though, where we get to pray. Of the over 1,800 homes, around almost 1,900 homes that we've been privileged to be invited into, we get to pray with these folks, too. We get to meet all kinds of needs. Dreamcenter has facilitated home repairs through one of our other initiatives we call Serve Days. We've been able to do just all kinds of, bring all kinds of benefits to these homes. The feeding element is something we didn't see coming. And then one day, here's another example. This is in the last 3 weeks. I didn't get to go on this bed placement, but one of our volunteers, the woman, we brought this box of food, because we know if they need beds, we finally woke up and realized they need food too. And so we just take great protein, fresh foods is beautiful. And this woman is just, man, she's squalling. The tears are just flowing down. And she says to our volunteer, Lynn, she said, "Come here, I want to show you something." She opened her refrigerator door. And inside the refrigerator, the only thing in the refrigerator was a half-eaten chicken leg that she had saved, and a small half plate of macaroni and cheese. That was it. That's all the food she had when Dreamcenter showed up. So it's things like that. Oh, the children ages 5 ages 7 and 11 that their stature was of children about 5 and 7 from malnutrition. Yeah. And Lynn was shown the food that they were hiding under their bed, that they told her that they had gotten out of garbage cans, out of dumpsters. Mom is a drug addict, you see. And so but what an opportunity. Here's the good news. This is a great opportunity to serve.
Well, a bed, people are reluctant to ask for food, especially when they have to see it publicly. That's why the boxes work so good. Right. The drive-through churches thing said 90% of the people are grateful, but their heads are down.
Yes.
They don't want to be seen, especially.
Right.
They say their worst times are when the TV station shows up, because they say people pull off. And the bed, even more so, I think, than food, even in the back of a drug addict's mind, is just a standard. Like, they're just like, I got a bed for my kid, you know. And then that gives you a rare opportunity that even social services wouldn't have, because these kids go to school, and the schools here are overwhelmed.
Yeah, they are
with it, and it's not that it's not their job, but they can only do so much.
Mm-hmm.
And we have more than a great percentage, I can speak, especially in Columbus and Lowndes County, of volunteer organizations, and from Renee Sanders United Way down to every last little organization.
She does a great job.
Again, we're coming up, by the time this is on the air, it'll be the exact day that I walked in here 20 years ago, and we didn't register with anybody. We stayed at the Motel 6 for 3 days, and then we rented a house downtown. And we moved into the house downtown. The Salvation Army showed up. like all these people showed up. I'm like, I don't know. They just neighbors told them like, oh,
Yeah.
these folks are here and they need stuff. And we're like, we're better than most. Like we're doing okay. I have a job and stuff, but
Yeah.
it was amazing. And I've never forgotten that. So when we chose 10, 12 years ago that we're definitely going to stay, that's how we got more involved in the
Yes.
charitable community. And it's still every single time that there's a need, or when people come to me and I said, the hard part is articulating it right and getting people's attention and making it tangible. And y'all now have a not only a modus or operandi, a way to get in the house, you also have a way to tell a story.
Yes.
That translates to other organizations that are like, because honestly, like you can sit there, Loaves and Fishes is a phenomenal organization. Well, they can't do that. They just can't do that and bring food, and not only bring the food, but find out who needs it. Because the people on the list probably need it, but there's probably somebody next to them that would never, or not know to fill out the form. Prairie Opportunity is a good thing that tells people like, oh, you're heating, if you need heat, if you need this, if you need that sort of thing.
They do a great job. You mentioned Renee Sanders, just magnificent job. Steve Greenow, Loaves and Fishes.
I'm very glad
St.
he
Vincent
got honored. I'm glad he got honored.
Oh,
this year
wonderful.
Too,
Through Exchange Club.
Yeah,
so deserving. Such a good man. Yeah. And by the way, I'm just going to grab an opportunity to say thank you to you, because I think you are Mr. Community. You are engaged everywhere, and my hat is off to you.
Well, man, I appreciate it. I say it often. I get too much credit for being the hype man on it, but it's part of it. It needs attention. It needs deserving. Like I said, there's a lot of people like you and Steve that do and Rhonda Sanders that do, Rhonda and Renee that do tons more actual hard work.
And I said Renee, and I meant Renee, but I also mean Rhonda as well. Magnificent. Wow.
Yeah, and I know she takes it as hard as anyone I know. How many times she's reached out to me and like, I just saw this baby, I just saw this, and the workman-like calls from it, which is something, since I volunteered at a homeless shelter in high school, the workman-like parts of what exhausts people are the mentally challenged adults who are homeless and stuff like that, where they come 1 week and then 2 weeks later you see them, and there's a human instinct of judgment where you're like,
it's true.
And that's I've talked to my good friend Scott Ferguson, who runs the Rowdy Foundation with autism. That's part of a lot of things. Like I have a family member who's on a spectrum, and you have other people who have Asperger's or other things where like they're not that messy, they're not that bad. You can't figure out why they can't connect the dots, and it's of course the government at large doesn't really help with mental health care anymore. And so they become homeless, and then it's hard to get. It's very expensive to get out of homelessness these days. I mean,
really
I can't.
Tough. Really tough.
I mean, I don't. I have some rental properties, and I try to be as affordable as possible. But there's nothing under $600 a month.
No,
and it
doesn't exist.
And there's jobs, but there's no public transport. And they used to 30 years ago they would go to a bigger city.
Yeah.
But the bigger cities are even tougher. Yeah. The ones with public transportation.
Right.
But that is a human instinct. I've talked with Amy Shelton and some other people with these groups where
there's another name.
Talk about unreasonable. Yeah. She's like, I'm going to start 13 different outreach groups. And again, much like the timing you're talking about, you got the food. Yeah. For me to see this in slow motion and learn and see the beginnings of all these groups, and then go, well, she started that, 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And it's very,
she's incredible.
Some of it's
incredible.
Like Latin centric, like Hispanic centric. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden there's this huge need because they're rounding up illegal aliens, and a lot of people at the factory work at the aluminum mill are coming into town and have needs. And she's right across the street from the new Mexican restaurant. And she's like, talk about, none of that made sense to me when she was doing it. And I'm like, wow, what a perfectly planned. Of course it worked out exactly like that. Just like, of course you were bringing beds and you were getting to see other opportunities. And the food thing is, I spoke to somebody in the charity space yesterday about that. I'm like, he was talking about this 2 years ago. And I'm like, there's not that big of a problem with food. And then literally like 6 months, you get your license, get the food deal worked out. And then 6 months later, it's going to be a catastrophic thing, I think.
Yes, I think so too. I shared with somebody the other day that is as large and successful as Beds for Kids has proven to be. The DC Feeds, our feeding program, is going to end up being our most significant outreach compassion initiative.
Yeah, I almost see it like moving up a ramp when I talk about the little boxes, and then MTV and other churches doing the food drives. The food boxes are getting wiped out daily. And they're, a lot of it's people's leftover green beans and stuff, but they don't.
Right.
The people aren't doing it for fun. And it isn't, downtown, the 2 boxes downtown, there's a lot of homeless people, mentally challenged people grabbing it, but they need it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other boxes, I mean, a lot of the boxes are right outside of $200,000 neighborhoods and people where you just absolutely would not conceive what's happening. And
it's really true. Sometimes, those are more expensive neighborhoods. People were in a stage of life when they were, moving upwards.
Yeah.
And then life deals them a hand. And meantime, now they've got the mortgage, they've got the 2 car payments, and all of a sudden life deals them a hand that they can't play, and they end up in the hurt locker big time. Yeah.
Well, let's start talking about the functional part as we got about 15 minutes left, I think I can squeeze in. So let's start about the functional part of the Beds for Kids and the DC food program. If people want to help, like I know the realtors did a day, and I've seen that maybe Power and some of these other companies.
They're going to do another one.
Yeah.
By the way, November
we have a great
1st.
We have a great group of people in charge of the realtor thing. They had a pickleball tournament this weekend.
Awesome.
But they raised, I think, $7,000 for the Salvation Army. So
wow,
yeah,
great.
So I was very proud of my fellow realtors there, and that's a tangible thing.
Yes.
As much as people have this concept of Salvation Army and Boys and Girls Club and United Way about this. Oh, the president makes this much money. Our local groups are exceptional. I mean, like exceptional in how they get things done, and so I always think that's good money spent to give it to them. So if a group wanted to get involved with the bed thing, tell them like what a day looks like, how we get involved in that. So. Okay,
great. Well, first let me tell you that the opportunity for service is what we're all about. And I've worked as diligently as I know how to engage the church, big C. Okay, you know what I mean? Yeah. And realize that the Dreamcenter exists for the church and the community as an opportunity to get outside the 4 walls of your church or your organization and engage in volunteerism. The Beds for Kids, we've got just a few hours shy now of 80,000 volunteer hours. But God has scaled this opportunity. So we are desperate for more help. But I want to make this about the opportunity for others. How can we add value to your church, your organization? And that is by giving you opportunity to engage. We have to pick the food up. The cuts that have come to Mississippi Food Network, which now we have that association with, we have the ability to pick up food, but it's not being delivered as it was in the past. That's over. That never even started for us. We have to pick the food up each week. We need volunteers that we can give. Here's the keys to our van. If you've got a clean driving record, we can put you on our insurance. I'll give you the keys to the warehouse. We're so blessed. We've got a walk-in freezer that's 25 feet long. I mean, this is a big freezer. So we can get the food, but we have to go get it to have it for distribution. We have a distribution network established so that the food goes out all over the Golden Triangle. This is a huge opportunity for the church to engage. The other thing you asked about, though, how else can folks engage? Well, we do need monetary assistance. At a retail level, we have distributed well over $2 million worth of stuff. Because, with the beds, I'll give you an example. Each bed is a handcrafted, high-quality lumber, heavy bed, 2x6s, 2x4s, 1x4s, and so on. Put these beds together. And the lumber itself is, it's very expensive, but each child gets the handcrafted bed. They get a fabulous mattress, about a $300 mattress. Now we get them for less, but it's a little over $100 for each mattress that we get through a foundation. But they're great products. They're not flimsy mattresses. In the beginning they were, but not anymore. They're really great. Each child gets all of the bedding, fitted sheets, comforters, blankets, pillows, and all of that. Each child gets an age and gender specific hygiene kit with personal hygiene, dental hygiene. They get coloring books. Now we're a Christian organization, and to the core. So we give Bible themed coloring books, crayons, anything that we can get or that's donated for the children. We get we hand those out. We take clothing, always new. We don't collect used clothing. There's a passage in the scripture, Colossians 3:23. Whatever work you do it as unto the Lord. And so that's what we try to do. I'm not going to give Jesus a shirt with missing buttons and big gravy stains on it. I'm going to give him something new. If I'm going to give it all, we want it to be good products that we can hand to these children that have nothing, to add value to their lives, to give dignity in the process.
And you're framing a standard too, because
yes.
I've spoken often of when I used to go around the country and tell people to fix their Papa Johns. That was my job. Like, you got to do this, and you could have not shaved yesterday, but tomorrow you can come in here and you're going to be the manager and you can live your life. And if you stand up tall and start new,
that's right.
It gives you some hope because
right.
Like I said, I've seen what y'all have done, and you see the kids stand taller, parents are prouder. Yes. Every aspect of it can reach out, and again, like you said, you don't want to give them a ratty sweatshirt at the same time. So.
Absolutely. So we just try to give our very best that we can possibly give. Another benefit for engagement with Dreamcenter comes where I never expected it. And it's with our seniors. The most fervent volunteers are in their 70s and even in their 80s. We have people that will not miss. We have one lady, she's 87 now. Her name is Ann. And Ann will not miss a bed build. She mans an orbital sander at every bed build for the last 3 years. Ann is there. Never misses, ever. And I hope God gives her grace that she can continue to live and serve with us. But our bed placement team that goes out 50 out of 52 weeks, we're placing the beds in the homes of the children. But it's almost all those volunteers that place the beds in the homes where we actually put them together in each home and enjoy that great opportunity to really add value to each individual in the home, pray with the folks, and so on. We've never been denied the opportunity to pray. But what an opportunity for the seniors to engage. We have the fellow that leads our Beds for Kids program, as far as the construction of the beds and everything. His wife had been praying for years, oh, Lord, give us something that my husband and I can do together to serve you. Now he leads everything. And he'll tell you that he had become kind of a couch potato in retirement. Now this guy is in the warehouse every week, just working diligently. He brings other men, older guys, and so all kinds of opportunity for engagement. And then, of course, this ministry is extremely expensive to operate, and but we are in. I just want your listeners to know we're in perfect standing with the Secretary of State's office. We're just now completing. It'll be public here very soon. Our first reviewed financial statement, and we're going to do everything possible to demonstrate that we are proper stewards of what has been shared with us, that to allow us to share with others and add value to lives, and ultimately see our communities transformed. And I also want to squeeze in the opportunity to say thank you to the businesses. Our businesses have carried done the heavy lifting financially, frankly, beyond the churches. And so we're so very grateful. I could list a bunch of them. I could rattle them off, but I don't know if they would want the recognition or not. But anyway, our local businesses.
Well, you can send me a list and I can make sure they get it.
Okay.
So other than, we'll pause in a minute here at the end so you can give people a contact phone number, where to find it,
Okay.
all that. I would assume some out of the box ideas would be good too, because I would assume you need food and water bottles when y'all are doing bed builds. Y'all could use tools from people. You could use lumber from, one of the largest lumber producing states in the country. It'd be nice if you could get some free wood from somebody. Is almost no donation in that direction going to be turned down, right?
No, really not. But I let me give a public thank you to where the outfit where we get all of our lumber. Financial donations are really most helpful so that we can buy the lumber.
Okay.
It is wholesaled to us by Barge Forest Products,
Okay.
a Christian-led organization.
Well, that makes it simpler.
Many years in Macon, and they sponsored our first bed build with free lumber. And occasionally they, if they're having a good season, they have helped us on a few occasions with free lumber. But generally, well, in fact, we just placed an order, got my invoice this morning for a new lumber order. But it's thousands of dollars every time. And the mattresses, I just ordered $8,500 worth of mattresses that are shipped. They're on their way. And so we really need the monetary donations for those items. Now, many churches and organizations, Miss Starkville Teen, Crosby Taylor, collected sheets. Actually, Crosby sponsored an entire bed build, $5,000. She raised the money herself as one of her community projects as Miss Starkville Teen. Wonderful young lady. And now she's doing a bedding drive to benefit the Dreamcenter. So the beds are standard twin. And so just twin sheets from Walmart or wherever there's a good value to be found on twin sheet sets, that kind of thing, blankets, pillows, comforters, anything like that, are always a great blessing that people can help us with if they like.
How do they get in touch with y'all on the phone or online to make a donation?
Yeah, our web address, great website, and I encourage folks to check us out at dreamcenterms.org. Must include MS like Mississippi.
Okay.
Dreamcenterms.org. And I may be nuts for doing this, but I'm going to just share my phone number. If somebody really has
if they've listened this long, they must think something of you. So.
Yeah, 662-889-5558. That's my personal cell number. And so if somebody wants to know more information, and with my promise that if I don't pick up, because I'm crazy busy old man, if I don't pick up, I promise I will call you back. And I listen to voicemail. I'm one of the few left standing in America that listens to voicemail, but I do, and I do call back. So folks would be invited to do that as well.
Well, I appreciate it. I loved hearing your story because you're already an inspiration to so many people, and me in particular. And to go from a situation with being around abuse and alcohol to saving people who were in it from literally being in the dark, and both, physical and a mental space with drug abuse and other things like that, to living in a van and helping people get out of a van. It's funny how the Lord works in mysterious ways.
He does indeed.
And you could have ended up in a underground, some in a different direction, and now you're just really helping so many people and inspiring them. I'm proud of you. So,
well, Colin, thank you. Thank you so much again for this wonderful opportunity to share a little bit of my story, which doesn't matter. But Dreamcenter does. We are making an impact, and we hope more will join the Dreamcenter in this effort to transform our community.
Good deal. Well, thanks for being on today. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. My name is Colin Krieger, and my day job is real estate. If you're looking to buy or sell, I'd love to talk to you. Or if you just want to sit and talk real estate in a no pressure situation, I'd love to help you. I work with RE/MAX Partners in Starkville, Columbus, and West Point, Mississippi. I can help you find an agent anywhere in Mississippi or anywhere in the country. Just reach out to our office at 662-327-7705 or find me anywhere when you type in 662-329-SOLD.